welcome to Plymouth Rock. This is where our ancestors first set foot in the New World, right? Well, not exactly. They first landed at Provincetown, which is at the very tip of Cape Cod, and they did explore on Cape Cod. They finally came across the water and they found this location, and it was just perfect place to put their new village. Why was it so perfect? Well, it was an Indian village. It was called Pawtuxet, but nobody was living here because they had been wiped out a few years earlier from disease that had been brought over by white fishermen and traders. So anyway, this is where they first set foot in the new Plymouth. And how do we know they actually landed on that particular rock? Well, we don't know 100% because it wasn't written in William Bradford's of Plymouth Plantation. It wasn't written in Mort's relation. It was told to us by word of mouth. Now, the person that told us that story, or that's what happened, was a man named Thomas Founts. He was 95 years old, and he had heard, this was in 1741, he had heard that they were going to be building a harbor over the rock. So he went into town. It was 3 miles. Some say he walked, some say he was carried on a chair. Being 95 years old, they probably carried him on a chair. Now, he was actually born in 1646, so he was living in the town the same time that the Pilgrim ancestors, our forefathers, were living there. His father came over on the Anne, which was 3 years after the Mayflower. Now, he had been told this all his life. His father had told him. He had heard the story through townspeople. So there's no reason to doubt that Thomas Founts is not telling us the truth. He was a very respected church elder in town. So I would say that it's probably likely true. In 1774, we're gearing up for the Revolution. So things are heating up, especially in Boston and the area around there. Are we going to break away from Great Britain, or are we not? Well, there was a group of men that were going to be moving the rock up to the town square. So they had to take it up this hill. But as they were digging the rock out, it broke in half. Now, they took this as a sign that we must break away from Great Britain. So that top piece of the rock that broke off, they took up to the town square, and it sat at the town square underneath the Liberty Pole for several years. By 1834, they decided we're going to move this rock to the new Pilgrim Hall Museum. So on their way, moving the rock to the museum, and it's in its cart, it falls off again and it breaks in half. I don't know, somebody's trying to tell them something. But anyway, so the rock sits in front of the museum, and it's not very well protected. People are able to actually go up to the rock and with their hammer and chisel and take off pieces of the rock as souvenirs. In fact, who knows? Maybe that rock in your garden that your grandma gave you came off of Plymouth Rock. You never know. Pieces of the rock ended up all over the country. Even the Smithsonian has 2 pieces of the rock. The first piece that they got actually came off of the rock from an ancestor of William Bradford. He had chiseled the rock off, and somehow this man, who is part of the New England Antiquarian Society, had received this rock in 1834 or something like that. But in 1911, he decides that he's going to donate it to the Smithsonian Museum. So that piece of the rock is in the Smithsonian Museum. In 1920, the Plymouth Antiquarian Society inherits the Harlow House, which sits on Sandwich Street, and they discover that the stepping stone to get into the house was a 400-pound piece of rock that came off of the mother rock. I'm not sure how they discovered that it was part of the original Plymouth Rock, but they did determine that, and they divided that rock into 3 pieces, and Smithsonian got another piece of that rock. Another piece of the rock ended in the Plymouth Church in Brooklyn, New York. So pieces of the rock are scattered here and there. The piece of the rock that was at Pilgrim Hall eventually goes back down to the wharf, and it's cemented back together. So today, when you see that big cement spot inside, coming across the rock. That is the pieces that were put back together. But in 1867, the Pilgrim Society decides that this rock needs a canopy. So they have the firm of Hammett and Billings build a beautiful Victorian canopy over the rock. And today there's a different canopy. The canopy that is there today was put there in 1920, and it was put there by the Society of the Colonial Dames. But the canopy that is there today was built by the famous architect firm of McKim, Mead, and White. They have done many buildings and famous buildings during that time. So that means they had to tear down this beautiful Victorian canopy that was already over the over the rock. So what did they do with it? They threw it in the harbor. Isn't that terrible? But they did take off these beautiful shallop shells that were on the top of it, and those now are in the walkway at the Forefathers Monument. So when you go to the Forefathers Monument, be sure to look at the entrance of the walkway. You'll see those two cement shells there. A shallop shell, since medieval times, has been kind of a sign of pilgrims, of being doing a pilgrimage. So I hope you enjoyed visiting Plymouth Rock, and I know when you see it in person, you will, please don't be underwhelmed, because a lot of people say they were underwhelmed. But remember, it is symbolism, and it is an important beginning to our country, I think. So I hope you enjoy that, and I will catch you on the next video. Thank you.